Okay, so continuing on, we are on example 5. So that's going to be 5x minus 3 plus negative 2x minus 13. Invisible plus in front of the first bracket, so we just write 5x minus 3. There's a plus in front of this bracket, which means, well, not a clear plus, I didn't draw that well. Which means that what we do is we don't change anything, so it still stays as my negative, and this is negative and it stays negative because there was a plus in front of the bracket. So that's going to be 5x minus 2x minus 3 minus 13. And you pull out your calculator. 5 minus 2 is 3 minus 3 minus another 13. You owe 3, you owe another 13, so you owe $16. And that was number 5. Example 6. So minus 4x minus 13 minus 8 minus 7x. Now here's a negative in front of the first bracket. So before we had some invisible pluses, now there's an actual negative in front of the first bracket, which means we're going to have to switch things around. So this becomes minus 4x plus 13 minus 8, so the 8 became negative, and then minus 7x becomes plus 7x. So we're going to rearrange it. We're going to get minus 4x plus 7x plus 13 minus 8, which is going to be minus 4 plus 7. Put in your calculator, it becomes 3x, and 13 minus 8 is plus 5. And that's example number 6. Example 7. So 5w minus 3 minus 8w minus 11 minus 13w plus 18. Okay. So, invisible plus in front of the first one, so this just becomes 5w minus 3. A negative in front of the second bracket, so the 8, that's a plus 8, so it becomes minus 8. The minus 11 becomes plus 11. A minus in front of this bracket, so we're going to have to switch things. So the 13 becomes minus 13, and the 18 becomes minus 18. So we're going to rearrange it. We're going to get 5w. The minus 8 brings the minus with it. Minus 8w. The minus 13 also brings its minus with it. The minus 3 brings its minus with it. The plus 11 brings the plus with it. And minus 18. And then we actually add them. So 5 minus 8, and you can do your calculator, of course. Right. This is a good calculator. This is the one I have. It's a Casio. I recommend it. So it's going to be 5 minus 8 minus 13 is negative 16. So minus 16w. And then this is going to be negative 3 plus 11 minus 18, which is minus 10. And that's the answer. Should we do the hard ones? Yeah, we're going to do some of the hard ones now. So these are the ones that people usually find challenging. have a little bit of jump in difficulty here. But I think you could probably handle it. So, we have an invisible, we have a 5 and there's an invisible plus in front of it. So we just write it as 5. There's a negative in front of this entire bracket. This is a trinomial. So we have to remember that there's 3 terms here, so where each term is going to be flipped. So we're going to have, negative is in front of the bracket, so 5 becomes negative, minus 5w squared. The plus 3 becomes negative, minus 3w. The minus 11 becomes positive, so plus 11. For this bracket, though, there's a plus in front of it, so we are not going to change any aspect of it. So that was a plus, it stays a plus, so that becomes 8w squared, and this one becomes minus 7. So we're going to collect the like terms. Remember, w squared and w are not like terms because that's a squared and that's not. I'm going to do it in the order. I'm going to do the squared terms first, and then the non-squared term, and then the numbers. Ideally, that's the way you want to do it. So here we go. It's going to be minus 5w squared, and that's like terms with 8w squared. So I've kind of done these two. Sometimes I see people scratch it out. I wouldn't totally do that, just in case you make a mistake. Minus 3w. So that's gone. Now this 5, you have to remember, when we drag it, that negative doesn't go with it. That negative went with the 5w squared. The 5 drags whatever's in front of it, and what's in front of it is an invisible plus. Right, so you don't see it, because it's invisible. But there's an invisible plus in front of that 5. So when we move the 5 over to there, it becomes plus 5, plus 11, minus 7. So I got all the terms. So now we collect them. Minus 5 plus 8. So minus 5 plus 8 is 3. 3w squared. That's just by itself. We're just going to rewrite it. And then 5 plus 11 is 16. 16 minus 7 is 9. And that's the answer to number 8. Okay. Let's do an even harder one. Maybe not. We'll do around the same, actually. 11x minus 5 minus 3x minus negative 4x plus 11. Okay. Nothing in front of the 11x, so we're just going to rewrite it. There's a negative in front of this, so we're going to have to switch everything in the bracket. So the 5 becomes negative 5. The negative 3x becomes positive 3x. There's a negative in front of this bracket, so everything is going to have to change. The minus 4x becomes plus 4x. The 11 becomes minus 11. That's the most difficult line. So if you have this one, things are going well. We'll collect the like terms. 11x, the 3 drags the plus with it. The 4 drags the plus with it. The 5 minus drags this, becomes a minus 5. It is. And minus 11. And then we just add these. So 11 plus 3 is 14 plus 4 is 18x. Negative 5 minus 11 is minus 16. Okay, and our last example. So this one's going to be a bracket in a bracket. I'm going to draw the brackets in 2 different ways, but it doesn't actually make a difference. A square bracket is functionally equivalent to a parentheses type bracket. In math, sometimes we use them for in special circumstances. There's a cool bracket actually called a curly bracket. We're not going to be using that right now. So when you have a bracket inside a bracket, you actually have to do this in stages. And what you're going to do is you're going to do the inside bracket first. What do I mean by inside bracket? It's going to be, so here we have the kind of curvy bracket is inside the square bracket. So we're going to deal with the curvy bracket by itself on one step. So we're going to rewrite everything else. 9 minus, we keep the big bracket, because we only deal with one bracket at a time when you have layers of that. There's a minus in front of this bracket. So when we get rid of it, the 3 becomes minus 3, and the minus 7 becomes plus 7. And the curvy bracket is kind of gone. At this point, you could collect like terms or not collect like terms. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to. So we have the 9. There's a negative in front of this bracket. So what's going to happen is we're going to switch everything inside the square bracket. So the 8 becomes minus 8x. The minus 2 becomes plus 2. The minus 3 becomes plus 3x. And the 7 becomes negative 7. So then we collect like terms. I like to put the x's first, but you don't have to. So the negative 8 drags the negative with it. The plus 3 drags the plus with it. The 9, what does it drag with it? It drags its it drags the invisible plus with it. So plus 9 plus 2 minus 7. And then we have minus 8 plus 3 is minus 5. 9 plus 2, 11 minus 7 is plus 4. And that is that.